What makes a good leader? This is one of those questions, my friend, that can reveal both a lot about what we ourselves value, as well as being a rich idea for many stories. Just think of how many stories will feature a good or a bad team, and how the story unfolds because of that. Yet, what really makes the difference when it comes to leadership? Is it just about being good or bad? I mean, does power, wisdom, knowledge, empathy, and charisma, or any number of those other traits you list matter to being a good or a bad ruler? Or is it more about the choices that are made? For example, someone may just ooze charisma to the point that almost anyone will follow them, yet they can also lack the sense or the advices that will tell them on what they are doing. Chances are things will not end well for whoever they are leading. Which brings up the first of the 2 points I want to make today, in that leadership is not about being the best or most powerful at something, despite what a lot of fiction seems to indicate. I mean, it's almost a natural conclusion that when the story is focused on the leader as the main character, for them to also be the strongest, because it seems like we're almost drawn to power. Still, being the best is not the point of leadership. It's about making the best use of what you have. For example, many strategy games will often task the player as the tactician. There may be a more charismatic or powerful character that is kind of responsible for drawing in all the other characters or drawing in people together. But the action-to-action decisions, where the gameplay is more in the realm of tactics. Not even necessarily strategy in a sense, but in the tactics, where you're choosing the actions and so forth. So that's kind of the role the player gets. Therefore, kind of part of being a good leader is knowing when there is someone who can show up your weaknesses and even do a better job than you can, which is one of the ways someone's character can really end up standing out. Could you imagine a world leader today stepping down because they knew that someone else was better for their people? It seems almost impossible to me, and it calls back to how we as humans seem almost drawn to power, as it can often be one of the hardest things for someone to give up. But it brings to mind a movie trope that I'm really fond of, since I believe it shows the true nature of power. It's from Star Wars A New Hope, when Tarkin is attempting to break Princess Leia. One of her responses is, "The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers." Power is not something you can keep by holding on to it with all your might. In fact, it's quite the opposite. A tight grasp makes it almost certain that it to fly away, even if it's little by little. Sure, there may be some semblance of control at first, but the moment anyone gains a choice, they will probably either try to change the situation, seize power for themselves, or get as far away from the situation as possible. And that's not really a choice that can be taken away, as all it takes is figuring out that there is a choice to be made. Also, much like the employee that ends up leaving a highly valued position because they were given no opportunity for growth or advancement, it's probably the ones you'd actually want to keep around, or at least don't want to compete with, that will end up figuring out that they have a choice. Which leads us to the second point that I want to make today. And it's the truth of how to actually keep and grow power. You give it away. Now, that seems like a paradox, and it's the exact opposite of the way most of the world views power, which could be our first clue that it could be how power actually works. But if you are still kind of doubtful of that, answer this question for me. Which is more likely to succeed? The one who seizes all power and control for themselves over a group of weak people so they'll always be the best there is, or the one who's empowered all the people they're over to be the best that they could be? Do you see how that's kind of a trick question? We could even look at it as being similar to the problem of being the smartest in the room, or having the best house in a neighborhood. There's not really a way to grow there if you are always concerned about maintaining that position. If you don't want to go to a place where you may not be the smartest or you may not have all the best things. Yet, it's when you surround yourself with powerful people who are growing, you can find new areas to grow in as well. It's like learning from experts and so forth, where You learn things you didn't know, or maybe someone who has the results you want, rather than just trying to have the best results in the group. Another example is in customer service. There have been probably many cases where employees will either always have to ask their supervisor, or maybe they have to just read a strip from an operations manual when they're dealing with a customer's problem, which leaves the customer basically either trying to get answers from different departments and getting this runaround, or maybe they're just spending all this time on the phone and they won't get any sort of favorable answer because the first person on the line could have told them, yeah, we don't really do that. But then there are the cases where not only is the employee trained to handle many situations, maybe there's not a script for them to follow, but there are guidelines on how to handle situations, but they are also empowered to make certain decisions and then take action on them so that the customer is happy. Which of those companies would you rather be a customer of? Now, there is a common argument that if you empower and invest in an employee, that they are just going to leave, and then you have to start all over from scratch. But if an employee is fulfilled and cared for, why would they leave? And even if they did, they probably did a lot of good work while they were there, and will continue to do good work in the marketplace. So the investment has benefited you, is benefiting the employee, and is also probably going to benefit the world at least a little bit. And we can also consider the other option there as well, having this incompetent employee on the payroll who may actually be causing problems rather than solving them. What I'm trying to say is that the true nature of power is that it is to be held loosely, if at all, and given fairly freely as well. I'd even venture as far to say that it's a sign of weakness, at least of character, to hold power too closely. It's admitting that there is a fear of losing it, rather than having this assurance that you are a good leader who treats people well. Taking it even farther, I think that those who desire power the most are the ones who should never have it, even if it seems they are the most willing to accept it. And that's probably because the best suited ones prefer not to bear the weight of the crown, because they know that to have the power of the throne, you must bear the weight of the crown. They realize that there's a weight to the decisions they have, that there are consequences that last beyond them rather than just the glitz and the authority and the glamour that comes from having power. They realize that there's also a weight to their decisions. In which case, maybe the best attitude for a leader is actually one of service. Jesus said in Matthew 20:26-27, talking to the disciples, "But it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. And whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant." That's an entirely different way of seeing things. But think of a business. The more people it serves, generally, the better it will do, as long as those people are happy and basically there's the exchange rate and so forth. But again, the more people they serve, the better the business is. So what if a leader would see their position as one of service to their people? What kind of leader do you think that person would be? And what kind of people do you think they would lead? Of course, this is how I like to think about leadership, but I'd also love to hear about what you think. So why not share your thoughts in the comments below? And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone you think will as well. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lionsmane Media, where we talk about stories and the lessons you learn from them. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.